What's going on, everybody? It is Luke, and today's in a really exciting video. What I'm going to be bringing you is my 2020 half-year profits. There's a lot to go through. I'm going to try not to waste anyone's time in spending 16 hours on videos like I usually do, because ultimately that's not going to be fun. So we're going to try to do it, concise, short and sweet. Show you the importance of what I'm going to show you as well, because what can happen with, my business or someone else's business. It's not always easy to look at two businesses and then reflect on the two. So I have to give you the understanding behind how this is created, because if you looked at someone else's figures, they may present it in a different way. So that is an important thing to remember on this video, because you might look at your own, and you might look at someone else's over the years that you just happen to know, and they're happy to share it with you, and you will wonder why certain things aren't the same as yours. And I will try to give you a brief overview onto the impact or what I have done to create this. I basically try to bring together the best representing data I can to present you to give the best reflection of what my half year profits are. Because you can add things and you can leave things out to do with taxes, to do with, VAT and all that kind of thing that are maybe not exactly related to the periods that I'm showing, but I'm trying to bring them into the periods to give a more true reflection on profits. Because, like everyone knows, on Amazon, everyone will say, look, I can do a 10 grand sale, I can do 50 grand sale, whatever they're saying. Yeah, same with all these ads that pop up on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. They're always to do with sales. They always do, I have sold, or I have done 1 million online. Well, to be honest, it's a good achievement in terms of it proves you have been doing it and you know how to do it to get those sales, because it's not easy just to be able to sell that much. But really, who cares if you can't actually make any money? That's what we're trying to get down to, the nitty and gritty, the nitty and gritty, whatever it's called. Anyway, let's get started. So, as you can see here, I have a summary tab here. Just shows you my, it doesn't show you it yet, so that's, I don't need to skip to the end. It's a bit boring. I'm going to go through every single section. If you really want to skip to the end, you can, but the problem is that a lot of this will need to be given in context to each other and how it is created. Otherwise, you will actually take away the wrong pieces of information from this video. So if you want to do that, knock yourself out, but actually you need to really listen to the sections in this to get a 360 picture and not a 1 degree picture. So let's go. So what I'm going to quickly start with, as it is related to Amazon. So of course, if you want to just say, ignore this from the data, that's fine. But obviously this information here is reflective and representing whatever goes on here. As in, if I didn't do Amazon, this would not be created. And Amazon cashback means just cashback from basically Amazon related sales. Some prep income, because I've now closed it, but I had a sort of small operation prep center that was just sort of trailing over the years. That had some money coming in, cashback, affiliate commission. Yeah, it's not directly related, but without doing my Amazon, I would never have that affiliate commission, which is all to do with Amazon. Yeah. If it was affiliate commission or some other random venture, I don't know what, maybe I want to do something else on like cryptocurrencies or something, I wouldn't include it in this. So that's why I'm including these. So this is for 6 months, and I'll quickly go over each month and how they're relevant to this at the end, because this is great to see, and it gives you a good reflection for anyone that's looking to see sales figures represented against profits and stuff like that. And where my expenses are, where my money's eaten up. But actually, you need to also see the context each month, because actions done in 1 month do not always represent actions carried out, sales in that month. Is the easiest way I can say it. So stuff I do in a month, I might spend 50 grand on buying a new unit. This is a great example. My expenses will be 50 grand in March. And you might be like, wow, you lost 20 grand in March or 30 grand in March. What happened there? Because, my expenses for that month meant that I bought a property. And that is reflective. I made money through Amazon, and my profits for that month were minus 50 because it went out of the bank. I spent it. It's an expense. Easy. Okay, but it's not an expense. But for this example, we're going to say it's money gone. It's a cost. It actually becomes an asset. So ignore that. It is an asset. It's represented differently on the accounts, but we just say it's an expense because it's a cost that I am attributing to that month for the business. And that's basically where you've got to be a little bit subjective, a little bit, third party view in terms of being able to say, oh, that person's lost money that month. Well, he has, but it may be that the reason he's done that is to reduce his prep fees for next year. So next year's profits would be double because his costs are half next year because of what he's been doing in any specific month. And that's an example I'll give to you in here to do with some prep fees. As I moved over to a prep center, so I have 1 month represented as high prep fees, the rest aren't. So it may look like I've made less profit, but it's because of certain actions. So let's just go. And I'll go through it then. But that's what you need to be aware of as I'm going through this. So it's just being open to those variables as you watch us. So we're just going to quickly, I might as well just unlock all of that for you so we don't muck around too long. So this is my income from non-related to the actual sales on Amazon. Well, I get, even cashback isn't represented in terms of sales because if you buy something, it doesn't mean you've sold it. So, these sort of things. The same with the cashback credit card. Affiliate commission is just, it could be from, like some services and softwares. It could be something like SELLERBOARD, or it could be, Keep It, Don't Do One or whatever. But, if we buy Book Pro, ignore that. I don't actually know why Slack does that. Slack shows me other people's messages. Weird. Not even a conversation related to me. Let's just close that. Privacy's definitely been ruined there, but that's another story. We're not going to get to that. I keep saying that. So as you can see, anyway, let's break through onto this. So you can see my income from Amazon related services is $6,500, and that is as it is. So cashback credit card I get affiliate commission. I have had some money from a prep center. Obviously, I've closed all that now. So in the future, you'll never see that entry. It won't exist. General cashback, either top cashback, complete savings, all that kind of thing. I haven't added in any voucher systems. So anything you get from vouchers isn't cash, literally money, pounds, okay? Or dollars. I guess I do get paid in dollars sometimes. Coaching, I think that was 2 calls, so I don't even do that much coaching. Mostly because, you don't also want to, as much as you could make some loads of money in something like coaching. Again, if you tell everyone what you're doing, I'm talking from years ago, if I literally tried to take on as many coaching clients as I could, you'll start to dilute the market. And yes and no to that, because obviously you've got to know how to do it. But, if you carried on doing it for years, more than a couple of people a month, or even if you release a course, that then becomes, as time goes on, it ages. So it might become less relevant, but obviously ongoing coaching is, you're going to basically sort of be diluting that market in theory. But I would always say that, something like that, you can do it, if you do it properly, there's never enough people on Amazon because there are a lot of people leaving the market at the same time. And I've just contradicted myself, but that's the best part about me. I always do that. So let's actually talk about the actual stuff. So Amazon sales for the half year. So they are probably not as much as people think, to be honest. I didn't mean to do it that way, but you can see it's about £250,000. Obviously, we're not including the Amazon-related income, so this is not related to any of that, which is great. So you don't, but sales, as I said before, it doesn't really matter. No one really knows what that, you can sell £1 million on Amazon, and you could lose money, and you would lose money through taxes. What I mean by taxes is VAT. So if you just basically broke even on all of that amount, you would still have to pay your 20% VAT, but of course you haven't got any profits to pay that money, so you would, have less. Or if you started with that much and sold, basically if you started with £246,000 and a bit, capital, invested it, broke even, you would get back that exact amount, but you would still have your 20 grand VAT liability, so you'd be losing money. So the gross profit, so the actual gross profit, in the reason that I've got my VAT liability separate to gross profit, and you would always usually have VAT liability or VAT costs in and within gross profit and all that kind of thing, It's just the way that I have to work it out currently using SELLERBOARD. The VAT isn't I'm not confident in it. So what I've had to do is I've had to find out the gross profit literally without that one extra piece, and then I'll go in after that and work that out, and then that will actually be the difference. So if we then jump and reveal that. So my half-year VAT liability, this is actually a really important topic to talk about, is about 18 grand. So the problem with the way that I've worked this out, and there is no perfect way all the time, like different people present the data using different pieces of information. And you probably would say, well, isn't it simple? You just get the buy cost, you sell, you get profits, and you add them all together and take away some, accountancy fees or SELLERBOARD or Keeper or whatever, and your profits. Well, when you come to doing VAT, of course, when I sell that amount of, to $250,000, I'll have 20% products, I'll have 5% products, and I'll have 0% products. So anything that is a 0% product, I don't claim back any VAT from the purchase I made, because there is zero in it. And when I sell those 0% products, I don't then pay any VAT, because again, there is 0% in there that is related to VAT. That's the easiest way to say it. And then there's a 5% product. So if I buy, products now, all of those products will have that are 5%. And you would, before you buy these products and that, you get when you basically become VAT registered, you get a good gauge on what's what. It does take a little bit of effort, a little bit of input, a little bit of research, but you figure it out pretty easily. Those 5% items, I'll be able to claim back. So if it's £1,000 of purchases, 5% of that I can actually get back from the government, because so when I make that purchase, 5% of that actually can be claimed back by me. It's the easiest way to say it. And when I sell that product, I'll have to pay 5% to the government. So I can claim back some, but I also have to pay some out. And then the same with 20%. On a 20% product, I can claim back 20% when I do my VAT return. So you don't do it straight away. There is no, it's not straight, it's not that second. Every quarter, which is normally what most people do for VAT returns, you can claim it back. And then once you make the sale, sorry about the speaker, once you make the sale on those products, you would then pay, because you've made a sale, and 20% of that sale is VAT, and you pay that. Okay? So the way I've represented this whole summary and each month is that, imagine that, let's say it was a pen. Yeah, it's easy. I'm buying this pen in, we're doing an example of April this year. Yeah? So I'm representing the data as if I bought the pen in April and I sold it. So all I'm doing is I'm going, well, there's 20% in here, which is I can claim back. So let's work out what that is. It's 20% of my purchase price. And then you would obviously claim that you can claim back from the government, from HMRC. But also when I make that sale in the month of April, I have to also say, well, how much did I sell it for? And what's 20% of that? And then the net difference from what the amount of the claim back is from the purchase and the 20% that is represented in the sale. So whatever that sale price is, there'll be 20% of that is what I've got to pay. The difference will be what you would then have to pay to HMRC. And accumulatively, across the whole month, obviously every purchase and every sale will get whacked together. And that will be the amount liable for that month. But the way VAT works, without going into extreme detail and boring every single person, is that when you make a sale in, let's say, April, you pay your VAT. Easy. So you don't pay it that month. That's even worse. I'm confusing myself now. But you basically represent it as being liable in April. So even though you don't yet pay it legally and on your accounting, it will look like 20% of that sale is your VAT liability for April. That's how it works. So until you sold the product, you don't pay the VAT. And as soon as you sold it, what month did you sell it in? April. Okay, what's 20%? Okay, well that will go over there, and I'll total up the month of how much I need to pay. And then it will just get built up over 3 months, and then you pay. It's just an easier way instead of doing it all the time. That's why. Every single month. But when you actually purchase that original pen, I could have purchased this in January, even though I'm selling it in April, and it didn't sell till April. But I can claim back that VAT from that pen in January. I can claim it back when I purchase the pen. So they're not actually in the same month, if you kind of get what I'm saying. So, And the way, and that's when you start like leverage VAT, which is, I have done a video on it like 2 years ago, but you start doing some, so the actual amount that I've paying it, so that 17 or 18 grand in VAT, I probably didn't pay that much. I probably paid like 14. I think I paid in 1 quarter 4.5 grand less than it says, because of certain ways, and that's what I mean by it doesn't represent properly. Some people actually represent it differently, and that is a whole new kettle of fish. Kettle of fish? Oh, I don't even know what I'm saying these days. Whatever, don't matter. So you have to be aware of that, and that is one of the hardest points to get across in terms of understanding VAT and that side of taxes. If it's gone straight over your head, it doesn't really matter. It's because I'm only showing 6 months of a year. If I was showing 5 years, it would be represented better. But because you're not seeing what I purchased in different months. So like a month after June or a month before January, there's certain things that are happening. So I'm basically paying in certain months VAT that aren't actually, I'm paying it in like August, but it might be VAT for a different month, and that's where it starts getting pretty confusing. I'm not going to go into any more detail because it's already confused everybody, definitely myself, but it just shows that you gotta be, you can get a profit, and you wouldn't, and what would happen is once you've basically seen all these figures, you'll start saying, why is my bank not looking like the same as this? That is because of these little things that happen. Definitely as you get bigger, as a bigger seller, little things that the cash flow forecasting, or as in your bank statement, your bank income, your outgoings, don't always reflect what you see on doing a basic, P&L or income statement over months, because of things that it would take 5 hours to go into detail, and it would be like a degree / college level, A level like accounting. It's like, no one really, it's something you have to really go and learn or get the accountant to do, and then trust that it works. Let's move on. Hopefully half the viewers haven't just dropped off by now, and if you have, and I'm sorry, but this is only for people that actually want to know what they're doing. So let's just then smash through some of this. So as you can see here, there's actually also a little thing here. Oh my god, that speaker is so... as you can see here, this is my expenses. So you can see that I have spent in 1 month, which is related to June, £3,350. I showed a photo to the group, I think, the other day. A little bit more clarity, a little bit more proof, I guess, because it is very difficult to say. Anyone could literally create a spreadsheet and pretend they're making the money, pretty much. That's what people can do. It's only a spreadsheet, and even if you can show like live figures on Amazon, all you got to do is like press a button on here or something, and you can then change and you can basically go in and find the embedded code and change a website, the way that a website looks. You can basically make a website look like it isn't, look like something it isn't, even though it literally, you're like, oh look, my HSBC bank account. You can even go and amend and make it look like you've got millions of pounds in your bank by literally just doing some, what button is now? Let's see if I can find it. No. Oh well, maybe it's one of these. Alright, I don't want to waste your time. Don't worry, there's a button. So you have to, obviously you have to, if you don't believe me on this, then all good, doesn't matter. If you do, cool. And if you can take some couple of tips away, then even better. So let's have a look here. So what have we got? So my overall expenses is this. Now, if you actually deleted that, I've not actually saved the. Yeah. Sorry, it just gets covered up all the time. It does my head. Why has it disappeared? Okay, there we go. Yeah, the streaming software is a little bit crap sometimes, so it just covers up some of the buttons. But you can see a lot of that for 1 month's prep is almost half. It's 3/4 of half a year's expenses. The actual cost of this, the sum of this, is 1.5 grand, and in 1 month my prep's superseded that. But you can see the amount of units I actually shipped in that month. Okay, and you can go up ahead and pause this and just look at the data by yourself. So I will speed up a little bit more. more now. So the net profits is basically getting the gross profit. I'm going to do it myself and actually just double check, because I always like to. Then you minus the 17,962, and then you minus the 4. Yeah. So it's literally this figure, just in case no one, look, I have to assume not everyone understands. You get the gross profit, obviously including that is minused, so that's actually a minus figure which comes off that, because I've got to pay that at some point. And then the total of this is that. So then that minus that equals 40,100 and something else. And then obviously including the 656675 over here gives me my half year net profit at basically 50 grand. January to June. So I'm now going to break down some of these other months for you quickly. Because, and if you actually want to see some percentages here, you can. It's just roughly like my VAT liability roughly worked out at 7.28%. So if you're looking at how much extra you might lose when you VAT register, it's that. But actually, you might be, so in percentage terms, you might be losing, but because you can triple your sales, instead of making, if you weren't VAT registered, basically if you're doing 100 grand of sales, you'll end up paying £7,280 VAT on average, according to my data. Of course, everyone will be different. But if you so you would have to go, well, okay, well, if I did that, 100 grand in sales, obviously minus that £7,280, that's not far off the £85,000 threshold. So is it really worth doing an extra, I don't know, 15 grand in sales to not make that much extra money? So you've got to really say, if I'm looking to do 500,000 this year, I think I probably will do about 700,000. The only reason is because obviously January and February, quiet months, and the rest of this year will be pretty amazing. This month will probably be about 50 grand, and 45, I'd say 45 on average. 45 next month is what I'm predicting, and then maybe something like 55 in September, and then like 75 or 65, 75, and then like 100. And then maybe 150 grand in December. Or maybe that's over the top. But, that kind of thing. But my January and February were like in the like 10 grand or something. So, this is obviously subjective to historic times as well. The older the data is, the less relevant to the current period it is. Yeah. So the older it is, the less weight you should be giving it in terms of reflecting the future. Not always. The more you do it, the more you understand figures and percentages and probabilities, but yeah. And you can just work out numbers like that, yeah. So I'm going to leave that there. You can decide the amount of units I sold and all that kind of thing. So we're going to quickly go over these months, and then we're going to wrap it up. So, as you can see here, my January and February were low. So if you just want to quickly see, I know I'm flicking between two. It says 8,500 in January. So this is sales. Terrible, isn't it? And 11 grand in February. So we're picking up. Now, the reason it's actually really low compared to my Q4, I think I did 136 grand or something. I don't know what I did. Something around that. It's because the way I strategize my business. So if you were only looking at January and February, so I'm showing you their figures, you would think, well, what the hell's that? That's like crap in it. But, okay, what are they doing? What's the underlying foundations or principles they're adopting in those 2 months? Well, what are they doing? I, personally, at the end of December, strip out my inventory. I won't be doing it going forward. Because as you progress through your Amazon career, if you want to call it that, you change. Because, you can't deny certain factors that make you change. But, I would never, this is like 4 or 5 evolutions on from where I started. And you can't jump from number 1 to 5. You might be able to jump 1 to 3 at best, and then maybe jump and then go to 4, and then maybe, spend a little longer doing those. But to jump to 1 to 5 is almost impossible. I don't know if you could do it just because of the underlying, or everything, I'm using those words, underlying foundations, meaning, it's not as easy as just showing you these and going, look, I sold some stuff. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. But what did I do in these 2 months? So what you can't see in January and February, what did I do? I probably went and spent 30 grand, 40 grand probably about 30, 35 grand on stock in January and half of February, or stock in January and half of February, or just half, whatever. Depending on how obviously spending it, I can't spend forever because you run out. Well, you're not going to ever see anything related in these months. So these months are quiet, and you'll be like, well, I guess you do, what's special about that? Anyone can do that. It's crap. Yeah, it is crap. It is it. It's crap. Looking at literally that is your world, and that's it. Imagine that's the world. Nothing else can happen. Yeah, it is. But okay, so what did I do? What was I doing behind the scenes? And so that's why you've got to be careful when comparing your own data with everybody else's, and whatever you see online, because it's impossible. I'd say it's almost impossible to ever look at someone else's data and say I'm going to go copy that, because you don't have all the answers, you don't have all the variables, you don't know what's happening. They're giving you the surface layer, which is this, what you're seeing. You don't know what else is happening. You can't, you can guess, you can get an idea, but you don't literally. You're not going to get 100% if you have like an exam, on what happens, are you? If you work with people and stuff, you build up a good picture. And if you trust 70%, if you think, 70% of that data, fine. But you've got to be careful. And again with February, sales. But what did I do in March? Okay, well, it went up to 55 grand. And yes, of course, we had a great, everyone had a great March and May. I've got May here, ignore that. Everyone had a great March, April, whatever. But I wouldn't have been able to sell 55 grand if I didn't prepare in January and February by pumping in the stock. Because obviously a lot of stock you couldn't send in anymore. Well, I didn't care. I had I didn't have 5. I had like 2,500 units. I had more units than I'd had in September, I think, last year. I think about 2,000 last September, leading into Q4. And I had 2,500 end of February, leading into the rest of the year, because I was adapting and changing. And now what did that lead to? A good May, and then that, so still compounding a good, sorry, this is March. Compounding a good March, including what I was doing in January and February, which to anyone else would have like nothing. What happened in April? Ignore the maths, really annoying me. Delete. I did 70 grand. Oh, but how, what happened? But no one could send any boxes in. Like half the stuff, well, was because what was I doing in January and February? And then I don't know what day in March they stopped the shipments. Maybe whatever. It doesn't matter. I had a lot, and I was still pumping in, just everything, So it's these figures aren't necessarily that they are just literally one little tiny piece of business information, which you can't actually just go, okay, I'm going to do that. You can't literally go. A good example would be looking at June. So I'll quickly pop to May so you can see in a sec. Okay. So as you can see here, my prep fees here were £3,350. Okay, I didn't have them in the other months because I didn't use a prep center. So you just look at my actual Amazon net profit in my monthly, obviously, of course, that you'd be like, well, that is a massive chunk. Oh my god! Even if you just take Amazon, what so £3,554 pound on prep, and you only made half that. So you're like half your profits is going on prep. No, actually, is the answer. Because how many units did I send in? That's how many units I sent in under that. Well, how many units did I sell in June? About 4,000. But what happened? Because what am I going to do? When are these units going to sell? These units are going to sell in July, August, September, October, November, December. I'm planning on the larger scale. So I'm looking at buying a lot of stock and spending a lot. I mean, in theory, if I could have, I would have doubled that. I would have zero profits from my Amazon from June on £45,000 sales. And I would obviously get that, and that I don't spend hard. Like, I live with my mate at the moment, and then until another 3 weeks' time, I'm moving to Lithuania. Of course, my expenses will go up, but I can live off like £800 a month at the moment or something. I'll probably live off less. Probably something like £800. So, well, if I can make 15, how much will I make in April? Gross net profit, 15,560. That is clean cash in the bank. Yeah, like back pocket money, some penny sweets, a lot of bloody penny sweets actually. If I divide that by £800 a month, I can live for like 20 months off of 1 month's profit. Okay, well, I can I can invest now for 20 months, making zero profit. But what would that lead to? After I stopped obviously reinvesting, because I only have 20 months of income, or 19.45 income, that year, whenever after 20 months, I could have 100,000 units in stock on Amazon, yeah? And so from then on, what would my sales be? So I could stop my prep forever at that point in the future because I would have 100,000 units. But what would my sales be? I don't know. I'll do maybe 2 million a year in sales. Probably more. 100,000 units. Jesus, if you could do 5,000 units, I'd say 7,000. I'd say even super. 7,000 units a month would generate 10. No, let's give it 10. 10,000 units because I've been looking at data recently. 10,000 units going off a random number. That's high enough to obviously be a lot. This is not just at a random chart. I have seen data on that I've looked at for my own sales recently. Let's use 10,000. You can do 100,000 pounds of sales. Yeah, simple. So that 100,000 units that I could have in the future, just by literally making no money for ages, because I'm purposely pumping in stock, I could do £1 million in sales. Okay, what would that be profit? Well, if I just didn't send any more stock in, I could do £1 million of sales over however long it took, but my expenses would be zero because I wouldn't have any prep fees anymore. So you would make, I don't know, 250 grand. Yeah? So in 1 year, by just breaking even for a while, I could make 250 grand. So it's like, okay, well, so you have to be, basically you've got to be really on your toes with this sort of thing. Because, number one, at least I'm showing you these figures. But you've also got to be aware that these figures are basically just a load of crap. Depending, in terms of it's real. Actually, I've done it, but you've got to be aware that this could be half that figure, or it could be double that figure, depending on things that probably don't show up in here. It's very difficult. Like I could have now. A good example could be, if you've got like a loan or something. If you go and invest that loan, in stock, then you can claim back all that VAT right today. If you're going to spend 100 grand today, you can go and claim back as of today, if that was when you could actually do your return, 20 grand of VAT. It's not financial advice, guys. This is just showing you my results and nothing else. Always make sure I say that, I guess. You can claim back that 20 grand as of today. Well, you might not sell any of that stock for ages. So you're representing, this is where that VAT side of things comes on, you're representing a claim you can get back off the government. You can literally get off the government and they'll send you a check. Well, they sent me a check last time for 20,000. So your bank balance will go, oh look, I've got 20 grand in the bank. But when you sell those products, obviously, you're going to have, well, whatever you sell it for, let's say you sell it for 200 grand, because you're obviously selling it for more, you would have a £40,000 VAT cost in a month, where if you did all those in a month, whenever they happen to sell in the future. So your profits for those months in the future, because you would take out all that liable VAT sum, well, could be zero, or you could be minus. You could lose money because you've got a massive VAT bill or something. So I'm still basically trying to create the best combination of data to represent to you guys, because it is easy just to move things around and muck around with data. Ultimately, it is easy as hell. Easy as hell. That doesn't even make sense. Well, I guess it's easy. You just don't be a good person. Anyway, so you've got to be aware that any piece of information has to be used in conjunction with a lot of data, which a lot of you will probably never see from sellers. Even with this data, you only have a certain amount of information to go off on what I'm doing. That's why I'm trying to give you all this sort of third-party little snippets of underlying activities that are resulting in this data. Hopefully, a lot of you will probably be like, what am I going on about? But, and that's the same as seeing other people's data. It is very difficult to think, well, but Luke said that percentage and that person said that percent, but well, who's right? No one's right. No one's wrong. It's just how they're represented, how have they calculated it, and that's why I'm trying to give you the how I've done it. Because you might see someone and they might not tell you, or they might tell you, and you can go, okay, so that's not exactly how Luke has been representing his. We can't actually now start scrutinizing them as if they are the same thing. Or you can't say, okay, but I'm going to do that because you can't really do that. It's just to give you, and even the way that I'm doing it now, I may change in the future to, again, give you a better representation in the future. Because I'm just trying to play with the numbers to give it to the most, basically to present it the most accurately as I can for what I'm trying to achieve in this video. That's what I'm trying to do. Because I want to do that millionaire maker, that's probably definitely something else, but and that millionaire sort of challenge next year, millionaire, not millionaire, £1 million challenge, there we go, turnover. So from 2021, yeah. I want to also, I'm going to do a monthly video on my, how it's going, and I don't want you to look at it and be like, well, how do I know it's even correct? Because of exactly what I've just told. So I'm doing this and giving you the understanding. One, so that you know, because I don't want you to take someone's word for something and actually it doesn't seem to represent in your data, because it doesn't. You can't really do that. And also, when the time comes, it will probably look different because I'm basically trying to refine this process for you, for feedback, and the more that I present this in terms of video format, or I'm showing my accountant or whoever, they can give me tips and hints and like positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement to try to then make me adapt this up to the end of this year so that next year's presented as crisp as possible, basically not to mislead anyone at all, but also you don't want to be misleading yourself by thinking something is representing in a way that it isn't, or well, Luke can't even do over 11 grand in Feb, so what's the hope for me? Well, now you know. Now I've explained. Yeah? Because it is not actually necessary to do that. I'm going to leave the video there. 36 minutes is not too shabby. Hopefully you've got a lot of not only insight into the way that my business is run as such, maybe not run, also use it in conjunction with like my, over the years, hopefully you've been around, or even just a couple of months, all the old videos that I've gone over, all the things I've talked about. There's plenty of content to use try to use it in conjunction with this to get a better representation and picture. Of course, the older the videos or data that you read, less relevant to the current situation. As I mentioned, same with YouTube videos, same with posts I've done. So you're gonna take a lot of care and really be like smart in what you're actually doing. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be some comments, so fire them away, and I will try to represent it in this easier. Easy? Basically just give it as simple as I can because it is a little complicated at times. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.